You know, I'm seeing the largest chasm in our culture that I've seen probably in my adult life, probably more than has ever existed in our country since our Civil War. This chasm, however, it's not about racial issues. It's about ideas even more foundational. This is a culture war. We see it in politics. We see it in Hollywood. We see it in our schools. We even see it in our churches. Very few people know what they believe. So we see a nation confused, really grasping for our identity. We used to have one, but we gave it away. And now we're struggling to find ourselves again. To be honest, Christians haven't helped this in many situations. We can either come across as dogmatic and unwilling to listen, or as ignorant and not really having any good answers for what we believe. I'd really like to see the church in America educate itself so we can have a good, honest dialogue across this chasm and help people to see the reason for what we believe. Spirituality. Well, spirituality has taken on an entirely new meaning in the last few decades in America. 100 years ago, it was assumed spirituality meant Christianity, didn't it? Well, that's no longer the case. It seems vogue to simply create a belief system out of little more than feelings and a few religious paragraphs, if that much. Well, my question would be, what foundation do you have for what you believe? That's a reasonable question, I think. In this upcoming series, we're going to explore what the natural world has to say about a supreme deity. Does the universe, does life, does anything in science lead us to believe there is something or someone out there? If not, we can pack up and go home. If so, then we owe it to ourselves to discover all we can about him or it. Science. I love science. The interesting thing about science is that it began as a logical outgrowth to understand how God created things to work. The very large percentage of scientists, they were theists. They believed in God. Science, however, eventually grew into a manner in which we could explain how things work apart from God. Especially during the Enlightenment period, people of faith during that time really began to be marginalized. They were considered to be uneducated, ignorant. They weren't up on things that science was revealing. Well, that view, that still exists today. One of the things that I want to communicate in this series is that you don't have to turn your brain off to be a person of faith. Many advances in science in the last 100 years have led many elite scientists to a profound faith. Their science has led to faith. Christians don't need to fear science at all. Good science will only lead to a better understanding of the Creator. I want to help others see where science and faith intersect. There is an overlap, and there is great evidence in science to support a vibrant faith. Faith. Faith is an interesting concept, isn't it? It's usually used of people who embrace a certain religion. Well, here's the fact. Everyone is a person of faith. Everyone has a particular worldview that they hold to, and each of those worldviews requires a certain amount of faith. An atheist cannot prove that God does not exist, so he or she is banking their eternity on this unproven belief. Well, that is faith. The naturalist believes that everything we see came about by purely natural processes that are neither reproducible nor observable. That requires faith. You see, everybody has a worldview or a belief system that has become their faith, their religion, their personal narrative on how they believe the world works. I simply would like to ask the questions to see which of those belief systems has the most supporting evidence. Which belief system requires the smallest leap of faith? That then is the one that the evidence supports, then that is the one that is the most logical. That's faith. This series is called Tough Questions, and this first installment is Tough Questions about God. In March, we will explore tough questions about Christianity. But in this first series, we are going to look at nature, science, and reason to see what they tell us, if anything, about the nature of God. I believe this is one of the most important foundational series I have ever put together, and I cannot express how excited I am about it. It grew out of an article I read a few months ago that revealed a poll taken among Christians. About half of American Christians believe that there are other ways to heaven besides Jesus Christ. Well, that shocked and scared me. We don't even know what we believe. It sent me on a research and study journey to better educate and prepare those I have the privilege of leading to really understand the God of the Bible. Well, the other outgrowth of that study and that research is that I'd like to invite skeptics, seekers, those who have any doubt about God, His reality. I would like them to join us for this series. I would like every real lifer to proactively invite people in their life who have real questions about, or hard questions about, or problems with God. They can rest assured that those doubts, I had them, they're going to be honored. We're not going to be dogmatic or preachy. What we will do is ask the hard questions and take a good look at where the evidence leads. How did the universe get here? Was Darwin right? Is evolution true? Did we come from monkeys? Many more questions will be unwrapped, explored, and explained. So if you ever had, still have, or know anyone who has real doubts or questions about God, then this series is for them.